we will fulfill that. Now, first thing is that I am doing my software development here. I will continuously write the code. I will continuously change the code. Hence, I need a place where I can track the changes so that I know what is getting changed. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm continuously changing the code and I'm continuously merging the code. So as of now, let me only concentrate here. Okay. Later, I will concentrate on this. I'm only concentrating on this code merge for time being. The biggest reason why I need a source code management tool is that every code change has to be tracked. Who is making the changes? Who is reverting the change? Who is making a bug or whatever they are trying to do? Anybody. In my team, there can be 10 members, 20 members. So whatever the count may be, I am more interested in getting the details of each and every change, who made the change like that. And that's the reason I'm going to use Git source control tool. When I say SCM, people say it is source code management. Somebody say it is software configuration management and software control management. But whatever it is, I am more into the version control. When I go to the market, I see there are many other tools like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, TFS, RTC. So there are a lot of tools, but I showed you that Git has the highest market share and hence I'm using Git. When I say Git, I am going to do the version control and it says the version control is where the document, each changes is documented. Multiple files can have multiple revisions and every point of time there is a snapshot taken. Snapshot is the stable version. So anytime if something crashes, I know where to resume from or where I can get the latest content. So snapshot will be taken at any point of time. So I always get to see the code. So if there is a minor change, we start with version 1, suppose it's a minor change, we say 1.1, 1.2, but there is a major change, we say 2, 2.0, 2.3 like that. So this is how it keeps changing. When we do talk about version control, there are two types of version control, DVCS and SVCS. In DVCS, I am concentrating on distributed version control system where I have centralized repo and a local repo. For me, local repo will be my Git, okay, and my DVCS will be, and my centralized repo will be GitHub. Okay, so these are the two things which I will be talking in detail. So centralized, the problem is only one server is there, and there are high chances that this server may crash and things may go wrong. But I keep two layers of code so that if one layer fails, the other layer is giving me the backup. So one thing which should be very clear is that when I talk about local repository or this layer, I'm talking about Git. And when I'm talking about this layer, I'm talking about DVCS or my GitHub. Okay, so this is what I am talking about. Every developer will have his own working copy, okay, from where he can make changes. So first he will update the changes, then he will commit the changes. Whenever he will commit the changes, it will only go to the local repository. If he wants to push the changes, then he will push the change and then only it will go to GitHub. And unless and until the code changes goes to GitHub, other users will not be able to see. So please remember this very, very important. Every user has its own working copy. Every user has its own local copy. At the end of the day, what you're doing in your local does not matter. What matters is that whether that change is there in the central repository or not. So that change will be counted only if the change is pushed to central repository. So the sequence is very simple. You take the code. Okay, suppose I will take the code, I will update the code as per my requirement, then I will commit, and finally I will push the code. When somebody else wants, he will pull the code, then update, again commit, and this sequence will remain same for every developer. So a very common interview question is, what is the difference between Git, GitHub? Are these two the same thing or they are two different things? So Git is a tool, it's a software, you install it in your local and you do the work. Whereas GitHub is a web service which is there on the website and you do not install it in your local, rather you create an account and on the web only you do whatever you want to. So this is what we are talking about. So we have our remote repo and we have our local repo. So when I say local repo, I have staging area, I have working area, and I have the local branch. So earlier when we started, the local branch was master. Now the local branch is main. Here I have remote repo, and in remote repo, I can see my remote branch. So I will quickly demonstrate this. I've already done this, but there were some who were asking questions. So I'm quickly going to do this. So to do this, there are multiple ways in which it can be done. Now, one of the easiest way to get started is you go to Chrome. Okay, you come here and say git scm download. Now, if you're using a Windows machine or you're using a Mac machine, whatever, you can download this content. So this is for Windows. If you're using a Mac machine, go ahead and download this. Once you download, you can say next, 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 like that, and you will be able to install the software. How does the software looks like? So the software will look like this, git bash. So it will look like this, git bash. So this is how the software looks like. And here you can write all the commands. Here git is pre-installed. You don't have to install anything. Git minus version. So if you want, you can do everything. And here it is precisely telling that this is for Windows. Okay. But I'm not going to do everything on my local machine. Rather, I want to do everything on cloud machine. And that's the reason I will go to my cloud account where I already have a instance. So I will go to my console.aws.amazon.com and I will bring up my instance. So how to bring up the instance, I've already shown you, but quickly I'll show you that also, because there was one student who was asking regarding that also. So first is you choose a region, okay? Say EC2. Okay. First and the foremost thing is you create a security group. So you should have a unique security group. So mine is, I think, web. Okay, so I have a DevOps security group. If you come here, you can see here, I have already added inbound. In inbound, I have opened port number 22, mandatory. And if you see here, it is open to the entire world. So this is what is important. You should open port number 22. This is mandatory. Others, you can leave it for time being. So this is the first thing which I need to do. I need to have a security group and port number 22 open. Second is I need to have a key pair, which I will use to connect. So here, if you're using a Windows machine, then use PPK key. So come here, create, give any key and give a name. If you're using a Mac, then use PEM. If you're using Windows, then go for PPK and simply say create a key pair. This key pair will be downloaded in your downloads folder somewhere here. So for me, I think, yeah, this is the key and it has been downloaded here. Now using this key and this security group, I will create my EC2 instance. Come here to the dashboard, come here to the instance. And here, if there is already some instance, you can see if there it is. So it is there. So either you can start it or you can create a new one. So quickly, let me go ahead and create a new one. I have covered all these topics, just going through fast so that you revisit whatever has been covered and whatever has not been covered. So I am just coming here and saying Git server. I'm going with Amazon Linux, 64-bit, T2 micro. Key pair, I'm going to use the Ansible key pair, which I have. And then I will come here to my security group and say I'm going to use my DevOps security group, which I just now saw. All things left as default, simply go ahead and launch the instance. We can reuse the same KP and security group. Yes, you can reuse the same security group and KP n number of times. 2, 10, 20, 100, any number of instances you create, you can use it. Once it is available, you can come here, take the IP address. Now, there are many ways to connect. You can simply click on this connect and connect. Once your machine is ready, this connect button will become active and you can connect. In case you don't want to connect like this, you can use your terminal. So terminal is for Mac users. Now, I would like to go ahead and use my Putty. So how to install Putty, I've already told. Simply go to putty.org and install the tool. Once Putty is installed, come here and open Putty. And then you can come here and say EC2 minus user @ whatever your IP is. Okay, then change the font size, because if you keep the font size as 10, it will be very not visible. Go here and say SSH, then go here to auth and use the key which you have created or which you have used. So this is the key I have used. Simply say open. It will say, would you like to connect? I'll say yes. Done. Now it says there are some updates to be done. Please go ahead and do it. So say sudo yum update -y. So this comes from the AWS site. So some update they have pushed. You should go ahead and do it. For better practice, new one for new project. See, if you have 100 projects, you cannot go with 100 key pairs. So if you are the one who is using everything, it will be good that if you go with the same key pair. But again, rather than saying 100 projects, 100 key pair, you can group it. So these projects belong to this particular sprint. So I can use this particular key. Again, the grouping and all can be your call. But one key pair can be used many number of times. Same is true with the security group. The security group also can be used n number of times. Anyhow, so I have just updated everything and I am a EC2 user. Always I would like to upgrade myself to root user so that I get more access. So I become a root user, sudo su hyphen, and then I will say host name. Give any name of your choice. And again, sudo su hyphen. Done. Now, this is where I am. Now, if I start my work, the first thing I will check is Git is there or not. So Git ---- version. And here I get a error that Git is not found. So I will go ahead and install Git. Installation is very easy. Just go ahead and say yum install git -y. Once you have done, you can create a folder mkdir, give a name. So let me say today is 27. So I'll say git 2707. Then go inside and say, now, if you run any command here, git, like git log, you get an error. It's not a Git repository. So it is asking for .git. How to give that .git? So you should come here and say git init. So git init is the first command which you should run. The moment you run this command, it initializes the repository for you. And this .git folder is created. And now if you go ahead and say git log, it will run. It will not cause a problem to you. Okay. Now, the second most important thing is that you link your Git and GitHub together. That is very important because at the end of the day, whatever changes you will do, you will push it to your GitHub. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to push the change. So in that case, I will create a repo with that name. Again, you want to create with a different name? Yes, you can. But to keep things simple, I want to keep the same name. So I am assuming that you also have a GitHub account by this time with your unique username. Just go ahead and log in. I'm going fast because I have already covered these topics. Anywhere, if you feel that you are not able to understand, then you can stop me. Anyhow, I'm going and creating a new repository. So git 2707, I will say demo for Git. Now, your call, whether you want to make it private or public. Most of the companies keep it as private. So if you don't want to share it with anyone, keep it as private. Rest everything you can leave it and say, I would like to create my repository. Now here it says, these are the steps which you need to follow in case you want to start your work. So the first work I have already done. I have done a git init. The second is git add, but to do git add, I should first create a file. So here, as of now, if I say ls -l, I don't see anything. So let me write a Python code. So nano sample.py. Okay, write anything. So let me say, I'll start like this. Import.
Because one query, we are working on one directory right now. You created.
No, I am creating a file inside that directory.
Yeah, you are creating a file inside. Normally, I'm asking Git. We can directly install and like without creating a folder, install Git, and we can initiate the command git init, and then complete Git will work on that complete Linux, or we will.
Yes, it will work. I'll show you one second.
Okay.
See, now let me say, if you install Git here, see Git, installing Git is like throughout you have installed. There's no problem. But if you come here and say pwd, you are at root. So generally we do not prefer to do anything at root level because root also contains many other things. 1 second, I'll show you. Sorry. See, not only that, root contains many other things which are mostly system related. So I don't want to get into all these things. Moreover, when you do a git push, all these things will be unnecessarily pushed. So I don't want to push all these details. That's why I'm not putting it at a random place. Rather, I create a folder. I go inside that folder and do whatever I want to. But in case you want to do at the parent directory, you can go ahead and do it.
My point is, suppose if I'm in the root, if I give some commands like git add or anything, it won't work, right?
No, it won't.
Yes.
Because see, because I just now showed you, all the commands will work only when this guy is visible to them. The configuration is visible to them. If the configuration is not visible, it will not work. I'll show you just. So if you come here and say git log, it says, I cannot find this .git, so I cannot work.
Yes, I got it.
So I have to go ahead and create a directory. In that directory, first do a git init, and after that, whatever you want to do, you can do that. Now, what I have done, I have created a file called sample.py, and I'm writing the code here. Let me say import Boto3, then import pandas, and then these are the libraries in this thing. So first is, I will say A is equal to 5, B is equal to 6, C is equal to A plus B. And you see print sum is C, something. So very simple code. I'm not going by the syntax, but a very simple code. Now, if I come here, the first thing I'm going to do is git status. If I say git status, it says there is an untracked file. Why it is untracked? Because when you start your work, you start here. You start here. Okay. Now you have done git add. You are here, staging area. Now it says do a git commit. Then you come to your master branch. So let me just go ahead and do that. So it says, if you want to take it ahead, do git add. Else it will remain as untracked. So if you want to track it, do git add. So git add. So if you have only one file, give sample the name of the file. If you have multiple files, do like this. Many people will do like this also. So what it will do is it will take everything. So I have only one file, git add. Now if I come here and say git status, now it says it is tracked. So now it says if you want to unstage the changes, then do rm -- cached. If you want to take it ahead, do commit. But I have not run the git config command. Okay. So if I do something like this, git commit -m, first commit. It will say, tell me who you are. I don't know who you are. Tell me your email ID. Obviously, the email ID and should be correct. And tell me your username. Password, anyhow, it will ask later.
Sorry.
Now it's done. You can come here and say list, and you can see your username and email ID popping up here.
This is step with you do just once, yeah? Just once.
Yeah, it is to be done once. You don't have to do every time. It is a one-time activity.
And then in this machine, in this instance, we don't have to care about the user and email.
No, you don't have to do it again because you're saying -- global. It will be throughout present.
Okay, the GitHub already knows my machine and we are done.
Yep, you're done.
Nice.
Now this time, once it is done, I come here and say git commit -m, and then your message, any message you want. This time it will go ahead and push the changes. But there is a small problem here. The small problem which I have is I have pushed the changes, but it is still in the master. Okay, but master is not the right branch, because as per GitHub, they have changed master to main. So I'll run this command to make sure that the master is no more the default branch, rather main is the default branch. Just let me show you that git branch. You can see master is the default branch. I will change it to main. So the command is git branch minus capital M main. Now this time if I come here, I can say main has become the default branch. Next, I don't want this big name, so I have aliased it with a small name as origin. Now if I come here and say git remote, obviously these commands will come with practice. So now if you see here, this big URL is aliased with a small name called origin. Now, if I want to push the changes, I will say git push minus U for username, origin for the URL, and main is the branch. It will tell me, give me your username. I'll tell this is my username. Then it will ask me for the password. And I told you how to create your personal access token. So this is my personal access token, and I'll take this Control C, and I will just do a right click, and that's it. Now the changes which I have done has moved to my GitHub. So this process is done. Git add, git commit, and finally git push. Okay. Now I'll show you one small thing here. Now there are many people who don't want to do a git add and then git commit. So they want a two-in-one command. So this git add and git commit can be done simultaneously. How to do that? So let me first change my file. Now let me say I'm changing my sample.py. So I will say nano. Here I'm making this as 53 and this as 64. So if I come here and say git status, I can see it has been changed. It says you want to take it ahead, do a git add, take it back, do a git restore. Now, ideally, how I do? Ideally, I do a git add and then git commit. Now I will merge both the commands. What am I going to do? I'm going to do something like this. So git commit minus 8 for add minus M for your message. Second commit. Now what am I doing here? I'm doing two-in-one. Two-in-one in the sense I am directly adding and committing at the same time. In general scenario, first I do a git add and then I do a git commit. Here I am saying git add and git commit should work at the same time. Okay, enter. Now if you come here and say git status, see here, directly it has been nothing to commit, work tree is clean. So your changes are directly pushed to your this place, this. So git add, git commit, no need to do both of them separately. Git commit minus A for add, minus M for your message, and that's it, two-in-one. Obviously, you have to push the code all the way here. So for that, you will do git push minus U for user, origin, main, your username, and your password. That's it. Clear all these things. Let me come back here and refresh this guy. I should be able to see my latest code and two commits which I have done. So I can see two commits are done and the latest code which I have. So these are the two commits. Let me just go back. And I can see my latest code. Now, any questions till this point of time?
Sir, can you please explain once again connecting Git and GitHub?
See, connecting and Git and GitHub can be done by running the git config command. So the moment you run the git config command, okay. So I just now ran this git config command. So the moment you run this config command, it takes these two entries. And when you're creating the account, you will see that this is unique. your username, your email ID is unique. So it will not happen that I am having Vikas99341 as my user ID. You can take that. So always it will disallow, or it will not allow you to take that credentials. So by this, you link your Git and GitHub together. Okay.
Okay.
Now, many a times it may happen, okay, that you suppose in the morning I came, I did something called, so to take the latest code, which is here, I always do a git pull. So the moment I do a git pull, this latest code will come here to my working tree. So think of a scenario. I did a git pull and it says already up to date. I have the latest code. I'm working with that. So let me say I made some changes. I'm making some changes. So let me say I made it 58 and this as 69. Okay, Control X, Y, enter. Okay, so I made the changes. Now, once the changes are done, what should I do? Git commit -a -m and then 2-in-1. Okay, so I have to do the changes. Now, I have done the changes on my local. Means this piece of work I have done from working tree to staging area to local. Okay, but I have not done this piece of change. Means I have not done a git push. I am about to do git push. I have not done it yet. I am about to do. Meanwhile, someone else, he will come and he will make a change here. Means he will directly come and change here. So let me say, or he has pushed his changes. Okay, he has pushed his changes. So let me say he made it as 531, 642. So I will say committed directly on GitHub. Okay, and he has committed the changes. Now, the problem is that this is the latest change now, right? Whatever change is there in GitHub is the latest change. But I am thinking I am having the latest change, right? But the scenario is no, you don't have it. So what will happen now? Now here the conflict will happen. So I think I have the latest change. So I will do something like this. Git push -u for user origin. Mean I'll try to push my changes. My username, my password, see, okay. So authentication has failed. Wait. Okay, now read this carefully. What is it saying? Rejected. Whatever changes you are trying to do has been rejected. Updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you do not have in your local. So I told always remote will be taken as source of truth. I am not able to log into Putty. Can you help me? Can you see if you are not able to log into Putty, then 99% your key is not correct. You can do one thing, Ravi. You can try connecting it like this directly on connect. If directly on connect, you are able to connect, then nothing is the problem from AWS side. The problem is on Putty. Uninstall the Putty and install it again. But if you're not able to connect from here also, it means your port is having a problem. In case, okay, I'll come to that git fetch and git pull thing. I'll come. Hold on. So I can see here that it is saying that my changes are rejected because in my local I have changes which is not there in my. Which key can I download? Ravi, can you go through the videos once? In the beginning of the class, I told you which key to download. There is something called key pair. If you see here, in the EC2 instance, I told you that there is something called security group and key pair. So this is what I'm talking about. You have to download the key, the correct key. So if you're using a Windows machine, the key should be in PPK format. See here, putty private key. This is the key. Okay. Now, if you see this, it says this usually will happen when another repository is pushing the same reference. Means you are making some changes, but before you can push the changes, somebody else has pushed the changes, which has actually happened to me. It says first integrate the remote changes by doing a git pull and then push the changes. So I will do something. I'll do like this, git fetch. So the moment I do git fetch, it will tell me what is the problem. So here it is saying that in your GitHub, go to your history. You will see in GitHub, the latest commit is 662 D491. This 662 D491. So it is telling in your GitHub, this is the latest commit, but in your Git, this is the latest commit. So git fetch will only tell me what is the problem. It will only tell me what is the problem. It will not do anything else. So if you come to this diagram, here, when you do a git fetch, it is only telling you that your GitHub and Git is not in sync. The two commit IDs are different. That is all what it is doing. But if I want to bring the remote changes, because at the end of the day, remote is source of truth. So if I want to bring the remote changes all the way to my working directory, I should do a git pull. So let me clear all these things and do a git pull. The moment I do a git pull, it says you have a divergent branch and you need to reconcile. So don't go by all these things. It says you start with this git config pull minus rebase true. I'll teach you what is git
Sorry,
rebase.
Kumar.
But yeah,
I have one question. What's the proper difference between when you do the git pull and the git pull origin?
it is same. See,
The same.
it is same. At
Okay.
least for time being, it is same because I have
Bring
only
everything
one
up to date.
repo. Okay, so the
Okay.
default it is taking is my origin. Ravi will connect separately, man. It's not the right place to take it. We'll connect separately on this. So here I'm getting a git pull also is not happening. So it says do this git config pull rebase as true. Okay, and then try. So I do something like this git config pull rebase. So I'll tell you what is rebase, but as of now, just do that. Then try to do a git pull. Now, this time it tells you the auto merge of sample.py did not happen. There is a conflict in the sample.py file. And it says, read the steps. It says, resolve the conflict manually. And once the conflict is resolved, do a git add if you want to take it ahead. Do a git rm if you want to remove. And then do a git rebase minus continue. So there are three things which I need to do. So I have identified which file is causing a problem. So let me say this file is causing a problem. So I will say nano sample.py. Now it clearly tells me that there is a different piece of code here. There is a different piece of code here. Now I'm assuming that there are two different developers who have done this change to the same piece of code in two different ways. Okay. So now I have to call both of them and say, boss, what is the change? Which one is true? So developer one will say this is true. Developer two will say this is true. But then you as a DevOps guy, you will say, okay, one of you decide what has to be done because both changes cannot go. So one of the person says, okay, let my changes go. I will do it later. So what he is doing is he is sacrificing his changes or he's changing the code, something like this. Any unnecessary thing, I'm just removing it. Okay, so what is he doing is he's making it as W and this as R, and he's telling C is equal to. Okay, so some changes in the code has been done with the mutual agreement of both of them. Done. Once the code change is done, it says do a git add. So let's go ahead and do git add and the name of the file. Then it says do a git rebase minus continue. And here it is asking you for the commit message. So escape I, come in insert mode and say git merge conflict resolved. Okay, so you have resolved the git merge conflict. Once it is done, you can say escape :WQ exclamation mark, right quit and exit. Now you get the success message. Successfully rebased and updated the reference head and mean. Now, if you want to check this, you can come here and say git log -1 line. Now, if you see here, your head is pointing to this commit. But where is your origin pointing? Origin is GitHub. GitHub is pointing here. So what should you do? Now you should go and say git push -u origin main. And the password. Okay, now come here and again do git log -1 line. Now what is happening? Your head means GitHub means origin. Both are pointing to the same thing, and it says git merge conflict resolved. Here also, this is there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I am in the fourth commit. C11, B2, C3. Let me refresh. C11.
So when I have a conflict, the terminal will notice me.
See, when you have a conflict, first you have to identify the conflict.
Yeah, I cannot do the add, neither push, neither nothing. I receive the message.
You cannot do anything. If there is a conflict, the steps are very limited. You either discard your changes by doing a git rm, or you identify the file which is causing a problem.
Go to bin and improve the code.
Yes.
To avoid error and continue.
Correct. So first identify the problem. Second, contact the other guy, sit together, resolve it, do a git add, then git rebase minus continue, and then finally you can push your changes, and then you can see everything is working fine. Now, here what I have done, there was a problem. I solved the problem. Git merge conflict is a problem because parallelly multiple developers are working. There are chances that they have overwritten the code. So the first and the foremost thing is, how can I avoid this? So the bare minimum thing which you must do is, anytime when you are working or you have started your work, always do a git pull. Whenever you start your work, evening, morning, night, whenever you start your work, the first thing which you should do is git pull. If you're not comfortable with git pull, do git fetch. Git pull or git fetch will tell you whether you are having the latest code or not. In case you're not comfortable with git fetch or git pull, you can go a step back, cd ... ls-l, remove this content, rm-rf, the file, and do git clone and the URL. So I told git clone means everything will be copied from the GitHub. So all the content. So I took this URL, git clone. Git clone means complete, all the content has been copied. So anytime, the first and the foremost thing we should do is do a git clone, fetch or pull. At the end, all of them are more or less doing the same thing, but you should know when to use what. And it's a very common interview question. What is the difference between git pull, git clone, and git fetch? Now, if I come here, I will now teach you how to avoid git merge conflict. It is very important. Okay. So to avoid that, we do git branching strategy. Git branching, S-T-R-A-T-E-G-Y. So we will be implementing something called git branching strategy. When you start your work, you say git branch. What is git branch? So it is talking about the default branch which you have. Obviously, when you make changes to the default branch, you end up with problems. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm not going to touch the default branch. Rather, I will work with my own branch. I will first create a branch. So I'll say git branch and give any name, feature branch 1, FB1. Now, if I come here and say git branch, I will see two branches are there, FB1 and main. I will go to FB1, git checkout FB1. Now clear everything. Come here and say git branch. Now, if you see here, you are at a different branch. Okay. So branch is nothing but this guy. So branch is, if you keep changing the master branch, this may cause a problem. So what you do is you create your own branch and you introduce your code changes here. Later you will merge, but first let me create a new branch and run my changes here. Exactly same thing I've done here. I've created my own branch FB1 and I'm running my changes here, or I'm going to do all my changes here. Can we do git -b name of the new branch? Yes, you can do. There are multiple ways of doing it. Okay, you can do that also. Anyhow, so I am in my FB1 branch. Now here I will make some changes. So let me say nano, and I will go to my sample.py. Here I'm going to make changes. Import numpy. I'm going to make this as okay. Then I will say, I'll add another file, say file.txt. This is a sample file on git branch FB1. Okay. So now I have made changes to two things. So if I come here and say git status, I can see one has been modified, the other one has been added. So I will say git add, then git commit -m, give a message. So changes done on FB1 branch. Now, whatever changes I'm doing it on my FB1 branch. So my main branch is not touched. It is as it is. Okay. So now I will say git push. But where am I going to push? To my FB1 branch. So how I will write? Git push -u. Origin remains as it is. There's no problem with origin. I cannot write main because I'm not pushing the changes to main branch. I'm pushing the changes to FB1. Enter. Rest everything will remain as it is. Then
we never push to master or main, right? Never.
You're not pushing. You're not pushing to master or main. You're pushing to FB1.
And one thing I saw was different in my local computer. When I change the branch checkout, I still can see which branch I am. But now in the instance, when I change to future or main, was not highlighted or exist any way to.
See, I will recommend to stick with what I am doing. See, don't do it in your local, because initially
I'm doing in the Amazon Web Service, but I remember when I
if it is not highlighted, definitely it has not worked. Run that git command again.
Okay, right.
Okay. Anyhow, so what I have done, this is what I have done. I have done a git push of the changes to FB1 branch. I provided all the credentials. Now, if I come back to my GitHub, refresh this guy. Now I can see here there are two branches, main and FB1. If I go to main, I can see this code sample.py, and I can see this is the code. But the moment I change it to FB1, I can see the code has changed. Not only the code has changed, but also there is another piece of code, file.txt. When I go back to main branch, this is not there. See here, in main branch, only sample.py is there. And in FB1 branch, both is there. It means here also it is telling FB1 has the recent push. So it says compare and pull. So this is the second part. First is you created the branch, independent branch. You pushed the changes to the branch in GitHub and brought it here. Now you're going to do step number 3. You're going to raise a PR request. So pull request is also known as PR request. Click on this. The moment you click on this, it says, I am going to push the changes from FB1 branch to main branch. So this is the arrow. It is showing changes from FB1 will go to main branch. But many projects, you will not have this power. So you need a reviewer or an assignee. Reviewer can be a senior guy. So let me say my team lead is my reviewer. So I will choose, as of now, I don't have anyone, but in your project, click on reviewer. Let me say his name is Srini. So his name will pop up here. Just click on this and write a comment here. Please review my changes and approve. Okay. So you are asking your senior guy or your peer to review your changes. Once it is done, you say create a pull request. Now, the other guy, he gets an email. He will come here and he will see what are the changes which are happening. See here, files changed. So he will come and see these are the changes which are happening. This is what has changed. This has in file.txt, this has changed. In sample.py, this has changed. So he will, because he's a senior guy, he's a peer, he will see whether these changes are acceptable or not, whether it is conflicting or not. He is okay with everything. He will come here and say, review the changes, and he will approve. And he will say, approved by, let me say his name is Srini. He says approved by Srini. So a senior guy or a peer of yours is approving your changes. It means chances of merge conflict are less, almost zero. I cannot approve because I am the only one. So he will click on approve, submit review. Now you have done a peer review. Finally, you come here and say merge the pull request. Confirm merge. After it is done, you can delete your temporary branch. Delete the branch. Okay, now you can come back here and refresh this stuff. Come here to your code. And you can see both the changes are present here. Sample.py. The latest code is here. File.txt, the latest content is there. Now come back to your GitHub. Oh, sorry, Git. What should you do here? Just come here and say Git pull. Okay. So it says your configuration specifies to merge this thing, but no such ref is found. So go back to main branch. So say Git checkout main. Go back to main. Here come and say Git branch. You have deleted the branch, right? So -D for delete. Which branch you have deleted? FB1. So deleted FB1 branch and then come here and say Git pull. So now all the changes are present. Clear out everything.
You already deleted this branch before, no?
That is done on GitHub.
Okay.
Now I have to delete it on Git also.
Okay, I have deleted local machine as well.
Yeah, it's a good practice to, yes, it's a good practice to delete the branch once your work is done, because it unnecessarily creates confusion and we will never want to get into any confusion. Once your work is done, git log -one line, and origin of everyone is pointing here, but the actual origin is pointing here. The head is pointing here. The head is pointing here. So it is perfectly okay with me. Okay. So at any point of time, you can get a git merge conflict. Resolving git merge conflict is a problem which has occurred. You're trying to solve it. The better is you try to avoid the problem. And to avoid the problem, do this, which I have just now done. Always raise a PR request, send it for approval, get it approved by a peer or a senior guy, and then only merge the changes. This 99.9% will avoid any kind of problem. Okay. Any questions, please go ahead. This will need practice. Trust me, when you're working with Git, at least 30 to 40% of your effort will go here only, because many a times merge conflict happen. Many a times you will have to resolve it. Many a times you have to avoid it.
Hi, Vikas. This is Shwapna.
Yeah.
So just in case, by any chance, without raising a PR or without, looking into the conflict, if we merge the code and if you want to revert it back the say,
I will teach you tomorrow. Revert and reset, I will teach you tomorrow. Uncommitting the changes, I will. Uncommitting the changes, I will teach you tomorrow. So there are concepts like git revert, reset. So those things I'll teach you tomorrow. Anyway, I have
a question.
Yeah.
What I do if by mistake I do git push origin main?
It will not work, right? Because your latest changes are not in main. Suppose my changes are not in.
Okay.
See, wait a second. Let me say I have not done anything on main. I have done no changes on main. Still, I keep on pushing it. So I'm pushing it like this. Okay, I have no changes, recent changes here.
Okay, it's like push something without no changes.
See here, you get everything is up to date. So even if you try to push, because there is no change, it says everything is up to date. So you just get a message. Nothing happens in the background. If I try to do a git commit, it will not tell me anything. You can just check that status. See here, it is saying nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. So push, commit, all these things will only happen if there is a change. If there is no change, it will say everything is up to date. That's it.
Hi, Vikas.
Yeah.
Actually, my number is not added to the WhatsApp group. I think there is a new WhatsApp group created a couple of days ago. I'm unable to get the meeting link.
Okay.
I've contacted the coordinators a couple of times, but they didn't respond.
Okay. What is the name of your coordinator?
Dana needs access.
Okay, I'll ask him to add you. Your name is?
Sneha.
Okay, I'll ask him to add you.
Yeah. I'm not getting the meeting link, that's why.
Okay, fine. I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, fine then. We'll meet tomorrow then. See you then, guys.